Hi everyone, it's Norman Kochnick here. We're just waiting for some of our guests. In fact, Monty Panesar is certainly one guest that is due to come on, and Aparna Saini will also be with us. They both will be part of this session. Hope that everything goes to plan. I will start though and talk a little bit about the program today. We're certainly going to enjoy talking to Monty Panesar, the former England cricketer, regarding both his experience currently. He's actually doing a Twitter program called Monty on Twitter. It's very popular, and he's also on many television shows in England and across the world. He's always a go-to person because of his Indian heritage, having played for England, having experienced India firsthand, having taken his first wicket with the likes of Sachin Tendulkar. And Monty's actually on. It's going to call. Oops, hello. Monty, can you hear us? So I was trying to get. Hi, Monty. How are you?
Hi, Norman. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time. And I was just beginning to talk about
yourself.
I was about to talk glowingly about you, which is what you deserve, because you're a fantastic ambassador, not just for cricket, but also for the heritage that you come from, the relationship you have on television. Your Twitter handle, Monty on Twitter, is going gangbusters, and I see you on LinkedIn a lot too. You've got an exceptionally good way of handling both your viewers. Plus, you're very topical, you're very forthright, and probably the most important thing to me is that you know what you're talking about, and I think that's refreshing. And you're not concerned about bringing out the facts about the situation, which I think is the basis of unbiased reporting, and that's the key to your reporting. So I do appreciate your time, Monty.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me on your show. Yeah, I think with anything, like it all comes back from during my Loughborough days. When I actually I studied like A levels. Education was a big part. For my parents, and through that, I the mind just programs in that way where if you're going to talk about something, yeah, you can critically evaluate it, but you've got to back it with facts, do your research, what you're talking about, and then whatever the facts are, you're going to have the ability to be critical of that, and that's how I sort of any subject that I talk about, I always do my research.
And it's quite insightful. It's quite discerning. I think I know a lot about cricket, but I learn a lot from what you talk about, the perspective of actually being on the field, understanding what the tactics are. It's just not coming in and bowl. I mean, you hear of Shane Warne having bowled many deliveries on one spot. You have a very similar approach. And I never forget the conversation we had about, I think it was about 4 years ago on TV Arcana, and you talked a lot about that steal that you had in your first match when you, of all players, Sachin Tendulkar, my gosh, that was your first wicket, which not unlike Nathan Lyon with having Sangakkara as his first wicket. I mean, that's an amazingly powerful moment to draw upon for the rest of your career.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. You resonate with certain players that come to mind. Like there's certain people's energy. So like what happens is that you meet certain cricketers and you just you connect with them just better than others. And Shane Warne is one of them. For me, yeah, he was a left arm spinner, whatever. But it's actually like the things you talked about, being forthright, being topical. You're quite assertive, talking, and it's a spinner's trait. Turning wicket, captain's going to ask you what field do you want, mate, and you're assertive. You're like, I want this, this is what I want. I'm clear. I know I'm going to get this guy out. And it's that similar approach. I may not have the same ability as Shane Warne, but it's funny you picked up on that. I always listen to him on commentary. I don't miss out anything he says. It's not because it's Shane Warne. It's how he puts things together. It's who he is as a bloke. If you take his leg spin away, I would still resonate to that guy.
That's exactly right. And to me, I mean, I'm not sure how much captaincy exposure you had at the highest level. You certainly didn't captain England, but because of your spin bowling traits, your awareness of the field, the awareness of the mood of the game is almost a la a captain. And it's intriguing to me that not more spinners are actually made captains of teams. We always traditionally go for the batter, and I kind of get that. Sometimes the keeper, which certainly hasn't been very good in certain cases more recently. and bowlers rarely get a go, but a spinner. And again, Shane Warne never got the captaincy for Australia, and that was a bit of a disappointment in some way. So did you ever aspire to being a captain of a team of that level?
Look, I when I listen to Shane Warne's commentary, you know, because I listen to him because his thoughts are amazing. Like the things he comes out with is really good. Like I don't think I had that level of thinking on the field, or if I did have it, I probably wasn't, you know, as confident. And that's something that maybe, you know, I remember my life coaches, mentors, they always said, you know, listen to the captain, listen to the coaches, whatever they say, that's what you got to do. And then over the years, like I remember Michael Atherton writing an article which he kind of said that there's a power hierarchy power thing that is within the British, let's say, Asian community, that they find it difficult to question authority, difficult to ask questions. They're very used to just listening to orders and just, you know, that's it. They won't, like, you know, question anything. And sometimes, you know, people in leadership power want to say, actually question me, challenge me. I want people like that. And you learn that when you're studying. So at the moment, I'm studying like an MA in international sports journalism at St. Mary's University. And I'm learning all of these different things. And I learned at the time when I was doing my BSc, but, you know, it was just, you know, people around me, my people who guided me just said, look, don't question captains or coaches, just get on with it. And I think that stopped my ability to think and critically, not evaluate, but think and make decisions, be assertive, which spinners do. You know, you're in match situations, you've got to be assertive, you've got to know your field, you've got to know how I'm going to get this guy out. And I probably just didn't, you know, vocalize my opinions so strongly during my playing days like I do now. And some parts of me I wish I did. You know, maybe I would have been a better bowler.
I mean, there was a question about your career as well, or I think an answerable question, meaning that you could have played a lot longer at that high level. There are a number of players, I could even mention Stuart McGill, where who knows what he could have done if Shane Warne was there in terms of expressing himself, having more availability. In your case, you could have probably doubled the number of wickets you'd taken. Not that it was about that, but your career, even, I mean, how old are you? Sorry to ask this question on air.
38.
38. See, there are players playing at your age now. I mean, even Chris Gale, for God's sake, is playing. You would be worth enormous amount of value right now, even in India. I mean, I know the two spinners, Dom Bess and the likes of Owen Ali's still there. You would still be contributing a great deal to English cricket right now. And it kind of annoys me a little bit because I'm not blaming anyone, but it's sad because I think you'd even be a better bowler now than you were earlier because you're still fit, but your mental strength in a game is only learnt one way, is that by playing for years. So it's a loss to England somewhat. In fact, have they requested you to be involved in the coaching at all?
I did I did ask, you know, to get involved with the coaching side of things, and I haven't really coached over the last couple of years, and I need a bit more experience. And something that I would be interested to get involved with, you know, county teams, franchise teams, just to get the experience and the exposure. And I think there's you know, in terms of my international experience, yeah, you know, I can be an international coach, but I think people have said to me, you know, get some experience. You've got great. From a players and experience lens, yeah, you know, you tick all the boxes because when we ask you questions and the way you answer them, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But he goes, the difference between you and a coach who's had a bit of experience is that they will speak from a coach's lens. You know, they will have a different way of the way they evaluate things, you know, and that side of things, I need a bit more experience. So, you know, both hand in hand, I think could help a lot. But, you know, I'd like to play again as well because I did tweet out during this England-Sri Lanka match. I thought, gosh, I'm watching England spinners bowl and I'm like, I would love to bowl right now because I think I'll probably able to possibly turn the ball more, you know, get wickets. But end of the day, I need a county, you know, to think, well, Monty at 38, can he be a player coach for us? You know, come in and help the youngsters and play. It's very difficult, but I'll give it in one more go. You know, I think every year I've been saying this is my last year. I'm going to give it a go last year. I reckon this year possibly. But the thing is, I'm also studying a master's in international journalism, and I'm thinking that'll take me another year away from what I want to do, you know, as my second career. But I don't know. It's about opportunities, you know. It's no harm, you know, sending an email, writing a letter, giving a call. You just never know, you know. Someone could just give me an opportunity.
Absolutely. I'm just looking at the scorecard as we're talking of the actual match, and albeit Sri Lanka's done a lot better, I see, in the match certainly than what.
Yeah. Well, it's 271 for 6,
Yeah,
and
that's
Joe
correct.
Root's 146 not out of 248 balls. I've got the screen right in front of me.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you want to know what they're trailing by, it's 110 runs, and the overs are 91 overs. I'll give you another stat. A second innings average score on goal is 425. So there you go. So then another 120 runs away from that. 150 runs.
You could walk straight into commentary and Gaul right now, but I'm afraid there's hardly anyone there. I think they've got Simon Dill from New Zealand actually, one of the commentators, which made me scratch my head a little bit. He must have been laying low in Sri Lanka. I'm not sure how he ended up there, but interesting. So look, I'm very glad we've started this conversation. I like the broadness of our discussion. It doesn't have to be A, B, C to me. I'm actually going to bring in a guest, also a host. Her name is Aparna Saini. Actually is a Delhiite, as you would call. I'm just going to bring her. I just noticed she's in. Let's get her into the screen. Add to the stream. There we are. You're in. Hello, Aparna.
Hi, Norman. How are you?
This is Monty. Meet Aparna.
Hi, Monty. Lovely to meet you. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, hi, Aparna. Thank you for joining us.
Now, Aparna's on here, Monty, because she has been involved heavily in the series here in Australia. Obviously has an Indian derivation, but she's very much particular about certain things that perhaps you and I don't necessarily see, which is always a good aspiration to have someone different to bring out the perspective. And she'll ask questions perhaps throughout the time as well. Okay, going back to the game now. Both Dom Bess and Jack Leach have done particularly well, but it is in obviously in Sri Lanka. It just concerns me that they've done pretty well early on in the series by a very poor first up performance by Sri Lanka. Does it actually reflect the conditions of India? Are they going to have this much luxury in their bowling when they hit India? And you know very well what it's like, especially first time. I'm a little bit apprehensive about overrating their bowling so far. I think they're going to get somewhat of a rude shock when they hit India, even though they've had perhaps experience there before. But I think England don't. I think they've got such high power plays. Your Ben Stokes is there, Jofra Archer, you've got Wood, both obviously the likes of Stuart Broad and Anderson, power plus. But it almost sounds a bit like Australia in their approach to their series just recently, where there might be an air of expectation, we're going to roll India. And beware, as we've seen, the Washington Sundars and the like are around. India are going to, I think, we've jokingly talked about Rishabh Pant being pantsing Australia. I'm not exactly sure England is so able to be deemed to be favourites for this series. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I think India is going to be favourites because it's in India. Any team, travelling to India, are always going to find it difficult because there's not many batsmen who can score quickly on turning pitches. They don't really, the spinners always find it difficult with their lengths. They sometimes, different pitches require different paces. So one advantage to England will be, the Chennai, Test match, which is obviously red soil. The ball turns a lot more. But the England batting lineup, they've got a young top order. Apart from Joe Root, he's scored bulk of the runs in both of the Test matches. You take his runs away, and you kind of think, what if that happens in India? They get Joe Root out early, then I think England are definitely going to be vulnerable against spin.
Absolutely. I mean, look, clearly on paper, England are particularly strong, and I don't quite know their bowling lineup for the first Test match because. What's your thoughts on Anderson and Broad? Will they both be in the side, or won't they both be in the side?
Look, I think both. Jimmy Anderson's both 6 for 40 in this innings. Last game, Stuart Broad bowled fantastically well. Both of them wickets combined. I think it's unbelievable figures. So there's a question mark. If it was the first Test match, in the Ashes at Brisbane, would you play Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson? Of course you would. So I think this is their best chance to get into the Test Championship because if the next 2 Test matches in India win, they qualify for that final and England don't. So you need to play your best team in that first Test match.
So correct me if I'm wrong, the 4th Test match of the series, is that the most significant match as opposed to the first 2? I'm not sure. I thought it was the 4th.
No, first two are the most significant. If India win the first 2 Test matches, then they qualify for the Test Championship, and England are out of it then.
Right, as simple as that.
Yeah.
It may well be New Zealand as an opposition team, correct, as well.
It's between New Zealand, Australia, and India. To be honest, I can't see England it's like saying, can India beat England in May on a green? You'd expect England to win that, right? And it's the
That's
same
true.
thing, on a turning pitch. Let's be honest. If they don't have the likes of Alistair Cook who can bat long, or Kevin Peterson, Jonathan Trott, even Ian Bell, they were great players of spin. This is a young, inexperienced batting lineup. And even if the bowlers bowl well, the batting is going to be always the question mark when it comes to the turning ball of like Ashwin. He's like unbelievable. So England, yeah, they may have a good game, but statistically, you expect India to win the test matches.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. To me, I'm excited because I've been able to witness firsthand the way that they've played in Australia, and it was mind blowing, especially that last test was, as they say, a test for the ages. Prosperity of cricket is amazing. Now, Test cricket has brought itself back up to its true form. That is the top form, the leading form. But okay, I'm not. While I'm talking to you, I'm noticing we're getting a barrage of questions, and I hate to say this, Monty, and I'm sure Aparna would bring this up as well. The whole discussion around Virat Kohli that's come out in the press, and you were quite clear on your views. Can you share that with us?
Me, is that?
Yeah, Monty.
Yeah. Look, with Virat Kohli, because he's performed well in all three forms and he's scored heavily. The thing is that Virat Kohli would want to also become one of the he wants to go down as one of the great captains, the likes of Steve Waugh, Ricky Ponting, Michael Vaughan, Mike Brearley, Nasser Hussain. These were great captains. He wants to be known as one of the great captains, not just a great Indian captain. So I'm sure he'll probably want to get close to that Ricky Ponting's record of most test match wins. And then after that, I don't know how much of his desire is to captain India with the test matches, but it just means that they've got a stronger leadership group. But I think everyone knows that Virat Kohli has done a lot for Indian cricket, so yeah, he should remain as the captain.
Exactly. Aparna, have you got any thoughts on that? You having seen both Rahane and Kohli this series?
Yeah, well, Rahani's positioning in the field and how he made everyone contribute to the runs, he has been really great. He's very calm. I think he's been really, it really has come out really good to be actually selected as a test captain for even in the upcoming innings. Not saying Virat is not that good, but was not unexpected. I mean, not. There wasn't any much the full Indian team as well. So considering that, he has really pulled it off nicely.
I've taken up on your point there, Aparna. The way Ravi Shastri led this team, Monty, he's given them great steel about their performance. Virat Kohli was magnificent for a number of years now, which has led up to this fear factor of disappearing against the likes of Australia and England. They've got a triumvirate of players. They've got Rahane's balanced, controlling influence at a very a backward step approach. Kohli, who leads the charge. You've got the likes of Rohit Sharma, who leads from the front, especially when he bats in the team. You've got Pujara, who can provide us that backbone. They've literally got 4 captains percolating away at different stages of the match. And I think that's the key. It's not just about one fellow at all. That's what Australia's problem is. They're relying on Tim Paine too heavily, I would argue. You hear Ian Chappell say they've got no other choice. That's a disgraceful thing to hear, that Australia's got no other choice of captain, whereas India could pull 4 players, the ones I mentioned. Clearly Kohli, Rahane, Rohit Sharma and Pujara could all lead either as captain or vice captain at any stage of the match, and they wouldn't blink an eyelid. I think it's an incredible side.
Yeah, look, India's a really strong side, and I think one of people don't give enough credit to Ravi Shastri, the way he's able to motivate the team, and he's always been a great motivator. And it all kind of starts from the IPL, really. When this year you can name probably many young cricketers from. So excuse me, many young cricketers from the IPL. Sorry, many cricketers from the young IPL. There's young players coming through. And the likes of Mohammad Siraj, and you got Shubman Gill, who hardly got much first class experience. And there's other countries around the world which will probably say, look, you get some first class experience with runs and wickets, and then let's see what if you can play international cricket. But India not doing that.
No, it seems to me that, and Greg Chappell wrote an article here in Australia, the Sydney Morning Herald, which you know very well, having lived in Sydney and been a part. I've been, I think are you literally the champion from Campbelltown, Camden? Aren't you, Monty? You're one of their best players.
Yeah. Look, Campbelltown was a great experience for me, and I was surprised by the standard of obviously of great cricket. So yeah, it's a great opportunity, you know, for any sort of player who hasn't been exposed to Australian conditions, come to Australia, play against the ball that's bouncing above the hip height. That's the one thing, you know, in England we don't really get, you know, as quick wickets as we do in Australia. So what you're able to do is learn to play the pull shot, learn to cut. You have to pull the ball if it's coming, you know, between hip and, you know, shoulder height. You can't really duck, and these are skills you kind of learn. But then the other surprising factor is, why is it the Indian batsmen come to Australia and they seem to, you know, these guys are bowling rockets, but they're not fear. They're fearless. They're absolutely fearless. And that's what surprised this Australian team. They underestimated, you know, this street, young, smart Indian team who are fearless cricketers because of the IPL. You go out there, you get a 150-kilometer ball, it's short burst ball, you got to put it out of the ground. You know, that's the intensity of IPL, and that's what they're doing in Test cricket. They're not scared of fast bowling, and also the other thing which surprised me is, why is it the likes of Mohammad Siraj, who's only played a couple of Test matches, but he's moving the ball much more than the Australian bowlers.
Absolutely.
You know, this Australian bowlers after 30 Test matches have got the same record, similar to Glenn McGrath, Jason Gillespie, Brett Lee, but I think that is a slightly it's a misconceived sort of statistic, because you've got to base someone how much they move the ball. Are they moving it in the air? Are they moving it off the surface? This team may be great, but I think you know, they're not moving the ball as much as their record suggests.
Yeah, they certainly showed up in the series. Indeed, I mean, Shardul Thakur came in and took wickets immediately. In fact, the two debutants and Shardul took 3 wickets each. Natarajan, of course, and Washington Sundar. Incredible first up performance. They batted well. I think, and I mentioned it earlier in a previous report about Australian fans, they are glowingly talking about India. It's this renaissance of romance with cricket. They see India as like the West Indies of old, or the Ian Botham period of old. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is, and I think it goes very much down to, you know, it's the commitment of obviously little things. It's a small 1%ers, you know. And I remember, you know, the British cycling team, you know, with Alex Beresford, who said it's about the 1%ers. It's about daily 1%ers that will get you into, you know, seeing huge improvements. And the guy who does that really well is Virat Kohli. His fitness, his discipline, his intensity, you know, his running between the wickets in the IPL was phenomenal. But that is a great role model for the likes of Ishan Pant, you know, Rohit Sharma, whose fitness levels weren't great. He got injured halfway through the IPL because he wasn't fit. He knows that. He wasn't fit enough. He got himself fit. He came back, got to Australia, enjoyed the leadership role with Ajinkya Rahane and Rishabh Pant as well. You know, he's really worked hard on his fitness. And that comes from Virat Kohli. So people question, should we get rid of Virat Kohli as a captain? No, because he's a role model for under-19 cricketers, for the India A team. Guys, if you want to get into this India team, you've got to be disciplined. You've got to be super fit. I'm looking at the Sri Lankan team right now, and they're not. Who's their role model? Who's super fit, that dynamic player? They don't have that in them, and you can see that in their cricket. You know, fitness goes a huge way in your attitude, in the hard work you got to do, and Virat Kohli leads that by a long way.
Well, Aparna herself, she played a very high, or still does play a very high level of tennis and cricket, having lived in Delhi. Tell us about that. You've experienced the renaissance with fitness too in India with sport, haven't you?
Yeah, the competition has always been tough because of the population, I guess, to start with. I mean, you're talking about 1.3 billion population, so obviously everyone wants to get out there, and the education level isn't that good. So when you can't afford to send your kids to a decent, good school, then you force yourself to become something in cricket. And cricket is only the sport that has been pushed. I mean, tennis, have anyone seen after Sania Mirza, anyone replace on that level come out to play that well? So cricket has always been, and that's why India's got so many players. Like I have even there's been news going on that India's got 2-3 teams ready if something happens to the one team, and that's what turned out to be in this test series. So it's always been like that. very tough competition if you want to represent a country like India. And BCCI is one of the richest sports, in the world, up and down from um, over 2009 to up till now. So, um, yeah, I agree with Norman what you said.
The reality is that, Monty, I want your thoughts on this. There's a typical adage that, oh, look, Australia's only got 23 million, but India's got 1.3 billion. No wonder they're now better than us. Well, that doesn't cut it with me, because it's not necessarily every Indian person has the ability to play at the highest level or be exposed to the conditions. They certainly can play cricket, but the reality is India have improved on their fitness, number one, their mental strength, their coaching is out of this world. They're not only producing one prototype of a spinner or a batter, they're producing all kinds of players, helped by T20. But I'm and Greg Chappell said in his article, he's not surprised that India are doing so well at all. And the world needs to take notice of that.
Yeah, look, they are doing well, and the reason being is because they're courageous in their selection policies. You look at, I'm a big fan of ex-cricketers being in administration roles. Saurav Ganguly, since he's become the president, you can see that how he knows how to get the talent through the system. He himself, he worked extremely hard when he was a youngster, to get to where he was. So he knows the pathway for these youngsters, and he knows how to say, right, after Virat Kohli, or after this team goes, what's our next best, 11 after that. So and they use the IPL. You can see that, like I said before, every team there's a youngster. A great example of having, Punjab Kings 11 had Anil Kumble and the young leg spinner from the India under-19s. These are strategically, they position certain youngsters with certain coaches. Delhi Capitals captain, Shreyas Iyer, young captain. Why is he the captain of that young team? Because Ricky Ponting, they want Ricky Ponting's, captain ability to rub off him. So eventually, there's some leadership coming through. So these, BCCI are strategically well ahead of any other governing body in world cricket right now. We don't see in England players who just play the NatWest T20 Blast go straight into Test match cricket. Big Bash, there's some great players who are playing in the Big Bash right now. What a great platform. Justin Langer, would he be courageous to think, okay, he's had a good state level sort of performance in the 4-day game, unbelievable Big Bash, I like the intensity, I'll bring him in there? No, he wouldn't. And then what worries me about Justin Langer is he's not actually, I think he doesn't know what's going on with this Australian team, because he says, when you're playing against a team that is 1.5 billion people, India always going to turn up and be great. But 10 years ago, were India that great? No, they weren't. The population was similar. It's just he's hiding behind the cracks. I think he needs to sit down and he needs to reflect on this team and say, why is it Mohammad Siraj moving the ball more? Why is it Jasprit Bumrah? Why are the Indian bowlers street smart than our bowlers in our own condition? Why is it Tim Paine's tactics so poor that he's not able to use a short pitch delivery on the first day of a 5th-day test match? Coming close to lunch, he was bowling short. He didn't bowl anything before that. And this is the stuff I think Justin Langer needs to sit down and think, why are we producing great batsmen? What is going on? Technically, are people not technically great? Why is it that Shubman Gill, he's only scored 500, first-class runs, 1 century, right? And he nearly scored a test century in his 3rd game. He's played probably a handful of first-class games. This is the kind of stuff, Justin Langer needs to sit down when he reviews. I think, where are we really at the moment?
Well, look, that's so refreshing the way you put that. It's made me think differently. And I would argue, I hope that Justin Langer eventually hears this, because he could actually take your perspective into play. I mean, Australian grassroots cricket, due to COVID, it stuffed everything up. We know that. But we've not played much Sheffield Shield. There's been only a handful of games where Bukowski and Harris got double centuries. There's not been much exposure. Our bowling cartel, although we've got great bowlers, yes, the depth. I mean, Pattinson's injured. Nessa hasn't had much of a go. I made this very clear, and a part of it as well. There was 8 to 9 players out through the series from India. The entire bowling lineup, obviously the captaincy, a whole range of issues, yet they produced the goods. Had Australia lost their entire bowling lineup, and captain. I mean, the captaincy is one thing, but the whole bowling lineup, who the hell would we have put in? I mean, I'm shocked.
That's a great question, yeah, that you talked about. And I think that's what, Justin Langdon used to, like, Australia used to produce great technical batsmen with great technical ability. There wouldn't be any deficiency. You look at Harris and you kind of think, gosh, he makes the game look difficult. Where are the gifted technical batsmen? Who are the batting coaches of these state cricket teams? What are they teaching these players? Why aren't Australia used to produce good, solid players, like guys with conviction, hit the bad ball away, good defense, technically sound batsmen. They just don't seem to have that. And why is that the case? They really need to, start taking a deeper review of the system that is going on with Cricket Australia.
We've got a question here from Anjali Saini. That sounds like a familiar last name. She's saying, what do you think is the view of the current England spinners? I mean, we talked about it a bit earlier, but Jack Leach, when he played, he's had some heroic performances, batting-wise, surprisingly, with Ben Stokes. But I'm not sold on the two of them. John Best has done well, yes. I'm a little bit concerned. I don't know. I'm just my gut feeling. I'm not that impressed by them. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, look, both of them are still, finding their way, and I think that they both don't seem to hit their straps. The consistency is the key going to be for them, and also there's that comfort, isn't there? There's a comfort. I remember when I never used to bowl that well, I knew that I'm going to get a break, and then Jimmy or Steve Harmson, Freddie will get a couple of wickets. Maybe second innings I have to bowl a few overs. I'm not bowling that great, but we're winning games. And that's what's happening. They're sort of Stuart Broad, Jimmy Anderson, even on these subcontinent pitches, they're kind of like bailing the team out. They keep on taking the wickets as skillful bowlers. And that's where the coaches need to work out and think, yeah, we're winning games of cricket, but what if, we first innings, we get bowled out for under 200 and then the spinners get exposed to think, guys, we need a good spell from you. 20, 30 overs going 2.5. They haven't been exposed because the likes of Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad, hiding away, they hide behind them and they take the wickets. We do all right, bowl a side out under 350 and it's all great. But it's like, what about the quality of overs? How good were their groupings? Let's evaluate the spinners. Are they bowling well enough if we take Stuart Broad, Jimmy Anderson's performances away? And the answer is no. They didn't take one wicket in the first innings. And it's going to be interesting to see how they bowl in the second innings. Would Jimmy Anderson bail them out again? Would be Mark Wood? Is it the pace? That's what's happening because we've got such greats. They're hiding behind them, and that's how when we're winning games, it doesn't really matter.
You said I draw upon in the Australian India series. India were bundled out for 36. Australia had this bizarre form of confidence out of that. The likes of Joe Burns got 50. It was a confidence level a little bit at that point, but we slid from that point. We took it for granted that we would win. I go back to the first test, England and Sri Lanka, that horrible 135 where every single Sri Lankan shot was amateurish, sky balls, and made the bowlers look good. That was probably the worst thing that could have happened to England. I wish they would have been smacked by Sri Lanka and they would have had to get a bit of grit and determination before the England-India series because I think it's actually had more detriment than positive at this stage. I know there's another match going on now and Sri Lanka has batted better and we'll get to see how that pans out. But I think sometimes early success, which was unheralded, can often lead to a longer-term damage. And that's my thoughts. And what's your thoughts, Bonnie?
Yeah, look, it's a valid point, but also you've got to take into the pitch conditions. This pitch is a traditional goal pitch. First couple of days, really flat wicket. Ball's not going to turn much. But then with the baking heat on it, it's going to eventually second, third day crack up and start turning, a lot more. And the first test match, the pitch was slightly underprepared, to be fair. And the bowler was a little bit lucky, they bowl short and wide and it's stuck in the wicket and they get caught. But here, in the first innings, if you don't bowl well, you're going to go for runs. So that's, certain times, you get conditions and success comes very, quickly, like you talked about, in the long term. But generally, speaking, it's going to be, anything with sport or cricket, like we're talking right now, having good sound technique. When you're under pressure, how well does your technique hold? And that's where the likes of Jack Leach and Dom Bess are being tested right now on a pitch that, isn't turning much. They're looking tired after 20, 30 overs. They haven't bowled long spells. They're not holding their action very well. And that's, they haven't really been exposed to that. So this is perfect preparation. Come to Chennai. Chennai's only 45 an hour away, from Gaul.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be probably slightly similar conditions. Probably the ball start turning probably from day one, a bit quicker. But it's the perfect time for them. And if they don't bowl well in Chennai, then I think there'll be big questions to be asked.
It's interesting. The fact is that we have a comment here from a guy called Akash R about you, Monty, and he said he sees you as one of the rare breed that actually could get through Tendulkar's defence. Now, that says a lot about your bowling. Can you unpack a little bit when you had that opportunity to bowl with Sachin? Maybe it was early in your days, but what was your mindset? Were you overawed by the fact that it was Sachin? Did you have a plan?
Yeah, look, I remember speaking to like a sports psychologist they talked to me about why is it that you seem to take the better batsman out, but then you don't clean up the tail, What's the psychology about that? First, my career, I think it was the better the batsman, the more I would focus, concentrate, get my processes right, because it was that respect of thinking, right, I need to bowl quality deliveries to these batsmen, firstly, because it's so good. And secondly, I want to earn their respect. I want them to say afterwards, Monty, that you bowled really well at me. You're a good bowler. You bowled quality deliveries. You really tested my defense and everything like that. And I think that's what happened. Whenever time I bowled with Sachin, it raised my game. Whenever I bowled to the better the batsman, the more game I raised. But then the lesser the batsman, I switched off. I had the other effect. I wasn't very good at mopping up the tail. I'll have 3 or 4 wickets, get a couple of the wickets in the top order. Now Monty, mop it up, and I wouldn't have the same focus or concentration. It wouldn't have the same desire. So that was the reason why I think when I ever bowled to Sachin, it was like, wow, this is like, this is what I worked for all my life, is to bowl against this guy, man. I want to bowl well. I want him to say after the game, Monty, that was a really good spell of bowling. You really pushed me, you tested me. And that's probably the best accolade for me. Like, getting his wicket, everyone can bowl a good ball once in a blue moon, like he said to me when I got my first test wicket. But it's bowling quality overs against the best in the world. That's the best feeling, I was able to bowl, let's say, 100 deliveries. He maybe got 50, 60 or 100, but I challenged him. And after that, he'll probably say, yeah, Monty, you really made me work for my runs. And that's the best compliment for me.
Isn't it what? When you come across Sachin in the hallways of a ground, whatever that may be, or even Virat Kohli, tell me a tidbit of a conversation you've had, something that comes to mind.
Well, I remember saying to Jay Wardina, actually, not to Virat Kohli. I remember in Mumbai, I was just having a laugh with him speaking in Punjabi, but he wasn't responding. He wasn't responding to me, and I was saying some like funny things to him. But it was just, look, at that time he was good, but he's become an unbelievable player, and it's just that's the kind of fun things obviously that goes on in cricket. You always connect with people with your cultural connections, languages and all that.
You must enjoy playing with India.
No, I did. I really enjoyed India because I enjoyed the way they just raised the intensity. Like I never played cricket of that level of intensity in England, and suddenly there's crowds there and they're like at you, they're like, they take it so seriously. They're really intense, and either you raise your game or you get caught in the intensity, and then suddenly they're just at you. So yeah, you want to, like, your game actually becomes better when you play against these stronger nations.
So what's your go on the racial slurs that happen in Australia?
Look, I think in England what's happening is with the FA, we have the knee, which happens every time. It's going on even now, and it's a visual reminder. The visual reminder of, like, Black Lives Matter, institutional structural racism does exist. It's much more deeper rooted than we think it is. And, fans sort of, having these racial slurs is the starting point for it. Like, you can't, afford to say things like that, because if Cricket Australia don't do anything about this, everyone will be looking at Australia as a nation. England right now with FA, they've got, massive sort of banner before the 2 games, integrity of the game, discrimination, no racism, in our game. Sky Sports have teamed up with Kick It Out. On Sky Sports, we have pundits who are, of BAME community. We in this country, the visual thing makes a huge difference. I remember Raheem Sterling from Manchester City said, whenever I score a goal, I always look up to the boardroom, the director's box. And I thought, I haven't seen any of my colour in that box. I said, is it? When I stop playing, is that it? Do I get into leadership positions or not? And there's a statistic out there where it says that players who play right now, especially the black players, they don't have the same level of representation, senior management positions, and it all starts from the grassroots. It all starts from the fans. And Cricket Australia must address this, because if they're just going to brush it under the carpet, do an investigation, and it happens again, and they don't do anything about it, I think that's they're not standing up as a governing body like the FA has done here.
Yes, I agree with you, truly. I would like to ask you a question, actually, apart from cricket. How's your golf coming along?
I'm not a great golfer. I'm good at hitting the range. I need to improve a lot more my golfing, because they tend to say that, a round of golf with a business person seals the deal. So, that's a good skill to have, learning how to play golf.
So who's the best golfer in the England team?
Oh, very good question, actually. Paul Collingwood, I think.
He was
brilliant. Yeah, he was brilliant. Yeah. Kevin Peterson, sort of, I think he's good as well. He kind of puts up on social media his posts on golf. So I was surprised by Yuvraj Singh. He can hit a long ball. Gosh, that kept on going a long, long way. So it'll be interesting to have a golf game with him. He can hit a long ball.
Punjabis are good at it. I'm a Punjabi as well.
Oh, really? Okay, good. So do you play golf yourself?
No, I wish.
Yeah.
Well, now you've written also a autobiography. It's called The Full Monty, detailing your experiences, and you said that you didn't want to give your playing career one more go. So tell us more about it.
Yeah, look, it's the difficulty is I'm 38 now. I've had a shoulder injury. I've spoken to some counties, and you kind of think, they sort of say, we're going to go with the youngsters. If you play at 38, that 1 year experience that you're going to play, we can give it to a 21-year-old, 22. Probably can get 3 or 4 years out of them. But the first couple of years, it's like an apprenticeship, and you're kind of taking that year away from them. And then I think to myself, do I really want to make a comeback? I feel bad. I'm taking a youngster's spot. You feel a bit guilty. But then, I don't know. That's an interesting one. Norman, what do you think? Should I try? Because I'm taking a youngster's spot. Part of me feels a bit...
Monty, it's not about taking a youngster's spot. If you're the best person for that position, both mentally, physically, and by way of experience, by all means, you should be there. And it annoys me, because I know if you were playing for England now and had played for this period, God knows how many wickets you would have taken, how much of a legend you should have deserved to become. The England bowlers are there, Don Best and Jack Leach, they're fair to middleish, in my opinion, but you stood out. Let's just go back to the fact that you took a wicket of Tendulkar as your first wicket. That, to me, set the scene. You did that on numerous occasions, as you said, against the best bowlers. Wrapping up a tail is not what we're talking about here. It's about the quality of your bowling. They're missing that. I'm sorry. It's frustratingly evident to me. You've done your level best, and it's almost like you haven't tried too hard. But sometimes when you try too hard, things don't happen. Sometimes if you take a step back, they happen. I don't know if that's advice in my thoughts, but you kill it from a mental state. You've shown the nous. You need to be a coach into your future. And I reckon coach an Indian side, as in the national side, would certainly put the cat amongst the pigeons and would deservedly be the case. I think you have a lot, this audience we've got in front of us is predominantly Indian. This be reported, we've got about 10 channels that are listening to this. Buri Majunda, who you spoke to only a short while ago, immense respect for you, immense. And coming from Buria, that's the highest rating you can get. He's the most articulate speaker, as you know, a Rhodes Scholar. For him to anoint you, you could do anything you want to. I know you're doing a lot of really good things now, but I think you're sometimes a bit humble. You ought to just say, I'm good enough. Damn, I'm going to be a part of this. I'd support you, and I want to get you back on the show, especially when it comes to the series that we're about to face, because you're the go-to person, in my opinion, for this. The experience you've had in all facets, obviously in England, in India, the cultural diversity of the situation, the understanding of how what Mohammad Siraj has gone through. It's all a part of your makeup. you are the best person to advise us all on how to handle
I
this.
support you too. And we will get to see your famous wicket celebration.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was because of Tendulkar. That was his greatness. You know, if he wasn't that great, I don't think I would have celebrated so sort of, you know, in such an animated manner.
So how many times have you watched that? You're going to admit to us how many times
I've watched it a few times, but then after that, it was just people have asked me why you know, how come you celebrate like I never used to celebrate like that. It's only because of his wicket, and I reflect on it now. I think I'm sort of celebrating how great he is, and also my shock to get him out. You know, it's his greatness. That's what we're celebrating, really. You know, that's why I'm celebrating like that. Yeah.
What about Saurav Ganguly? I mean, I have to ask this question because he's my sister's favorite. I mean, she even celebrates his birthday. Crazy fan. What do you think about Saurav Ganguly? Was he a delight to?
Look, Saurav Ganguly for me was just a natural leader. He's a natural leader. He's a natural thinker of the game. He's naturally knows how to put things together. He knows how to build things. That comes very naturally to him. You know, him being the president of the BCCI is actually a perfect setting for him, because you can see, you know, how he's made the IPL better. So you can see how he's getting Indian cricket stronger. And he's been one of the great captains. You know, he did great things for the likes of Yuvraj, Harbhajan, you know, Zahir Khan. And I think that's his strength. I know he's a great cricketer as well, but his leadership skills, you know, is second to none.
Yeah, absolutely.
And look, and that's a great question apart of Saurav Ganguly. I forgot to bring him into play. That's a significant person. He's now overseeing everything in India, and that's also part of the success. I could even argue with Cricket Australia. Up until recently, they probably had a few destabilisations going on there. Certainly, they've got a good situation now. I believe they're in a good state in that, as far as leadership is concerned. But to me, India has got everything firing at the same time. It's wonderful to see, and I'm predicting that I can see Monty Panesar coaching a Ranji Trophy team, and then knocking on the door for an actual coaching role there, because they, at least as far as bowling concerned, but also that tactical side, they need to bring you into play. You're well respected. I mean, again, Buri Majunda talks amazingly. Every comment that I'm seeing here, I'm seeing amazing, spectacular, fantastic player. I thought they were talking about me at first, but then I realised it wasn't. So I had to take it back. I thought I saw Norman there, but it wasn't. I was clearly...
Actually, I've got a funny story to share. I put out a poll, right? I just said, who's a better MP, Boris Johnson or Narendra Modi? I thought, you know, sometimes, you know, I just thought what the fan following was. I got up to 30,000 votes on that poll. Normally only get like maybe 2,000-3,000, you know, 5,000-6,000, whatever. This was like amazing. And it was 96% Modi, 4% Boris. And then the fans were saying to me, have you got your answer now? And it was just like, you know, it's unbelievable. The fans are so passionate about cricket, but if they want to tell you something, they let you know about it as well. Yeah. And then I deleted the post and I said, yeah, I've got my answer, but because I live in England and I have to support Boris Johnson because this is my country, my nationality is British. I think you guys, the Indian fans, embarrassed me and they gave me the answer to a point I had to delete the tweet.
Look, I can't recommend enough to everybody who's viewing this to go straight to Monty's Twitter handle, straight to it. It's so prolific, it's so genuine, it's so insightful. I'm going to be honest with you. If there's such a thing as a top fan, I'm there somewhere. I may have to change my name now because you know that I'm following. The partner's up there too. I might call myself Johnny Smith or something. So if you get a Johnny Smith, it's probably me. All right.
Stalking, Norman.
Look, this has been wonderful, Monty. Thank you very much, and thank you as well for asking some great insightful questions. You guys have been wonderful. I want to, if you all don't mind, I'd like to bring this back together down the track. I've got the likes of Simon Wills coming on board. You've met Simon, haven't you, from Kent? And he's coming down the track as well. I've got a few other people lurking. I'm not going to let it all out of the bag yet because it's always good to hold me back. But Monty, as you know, you were my first guest on that TV show that I had, Through the Eyes of a Cricketer. You set the scene. I couldn't wait to bring you back. You've blossomed. You're even better than you were then. So thank you very much for your time. Everyone who's viewing this, you got to view, like, and share. Subscribe to Monty's Twitter handle first and foremost. Then don't forget my YouTube channel and also Aparna's, which will provide you with tags in this. And I'm getting a fellow called Raghav Padia. He's written ask about 5 times. And he, what do you want me to ask, Raghav? Quickly, he's written the word ask 5 at a time. What's
he wants to ask Monty the kind of pace at which one should bowl in India at different grounds and how much one should vary it.
We're going to answer it. What can you?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question because for me, it's about the soil. That's what I noticed. You know, when I went to Kolkata, there's a clay soil based. You bowl the same delivery and it just skids on. It doesn't sit into the pitch as much. You go to Wankady or you go to Chennai, which is a red soil. When you bowl the ball, it sits into the pitch. And then when it sits into the pitch, it kind of, you know, grips and then it turns more and it bounces more. So this is what, as a spinner, you've got to identify. You've got to think, right, now, if the ball is clay, brown soil, how do I bowl? You know, do I give it more air, you know, and get the batsman coming in front of me? And when the wicket's sitting into the pitch, I can afford to not have great, you know, shape on the ball, but I can bowl into the pitch because I know I'll get away with it because the ball sit into the pitch and it'll turn and bounce. That's something you guys got to work out. But it's about understanding the conditions and when to get good shape on the ball and when to bowl into the pitch.
Look, we've got so many more questions coming through. What I'm going to do, if you don't mind, Monty, I'm going to try and tabulate these questions. So when you come on next time, I'm hoping it's a when, I'll bring them together in a panel and we'll digest them because there's so many questions coming through now that they can ask questions. They're inundating us with that, which is just testament to you. We're going to bring them together and collage them and we're going to get them asked on next. We might have a Ask Monty session. Now, they can also ask you through your Twitter handle, and I'm going to repeat that again. Monty on Twitter. Is that what it's called? That's the right wording?
Yeah, it's Monty Panesar on Twitter handle, yeah. At Monty Panesar and also at Instagram at Monty Panesar as well. So
we'll please, I want everyone on this hookup to be directing questions to Monty as well as us to be able to get a quality show on like we've done today. This is beyond anything I would have ever expected, Monty. This has been fantastic. Both Monty and Aparna, I will sign off now with a finishing point. Thanks, guys, for being here.
From All Indian.
Here we go.
Yes, that's the goal.
Yeah, Monty, get used to Aparna. We have this great banter. It's been on a few stations like ABP News. We banter away, and she usually gets she's been very smug. You can imagine me saying how good Australia is. I've been copying it from Aparna. I've got more bruising than Pujara. I'll tell you that.
Come on, Norman. Just say Sasri Akal at least.
All right, guys. Thanks, Monty. Thanks, Aparna. You've been fantastic. Yes.
Thank you.
See you soon. Thank you, guys.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Thanks.
Bye. Just get this done. All right, thank you. All right, everyone. I appreciate both Monty Panesar and Aparna Sani being the guest for today. This has been a fantastic time. I can see a lot of questions being asked. I'm going to try and bring it all together for you. You know I answer all your questions. You know that's what I do. So I want you to view, like, and share, and ask questions, provide comments. Obviously, subscribe and pass on the subscription to as many people as you can. We want to make this a growing channel. I'm very proud to represent you all. I hope you've enjoyed it. Make a comment so I can see Joy Loth there as well. We've had discussions with you before. So, guys, again, view, like, and share. Provide comments. We'll put it all together for you. We'll get Monty back on with Aparna, and we'll ask more great questions. So, thank you for your time, everyone. So, good night to you. I hope you do have a great day. I can learn how to turn off this damn thing. All right. Okay, we'll get this end.